Have you ever seen that French movie last year at Nuremberg? Have you ever been to a funeral or wandered off into the dim corridors of an old church only to hear creepy organ music coming from a room that says "Do not enter"? Yeah, that's sort of like listening to noises, Tenno. Um, so you can relate to those experiences or not. Tenno still seems to be quite unrelatable somehow, and know that perhaps unless your father's the Phantom of the Opera or something like that, you probably don't listen to too much music that's based on a gothic organ. I know this video's already gonna have a lot of people that are hating the music or absolutely loving it. I'm sure it's gonna be quite differing opinions about it, but you know, it's something you don't hear every day, and perhaps you've already gone down in the Dropbox and listened to one of the tracks that I put down there from this album, and it's probably some people that are like, "Oh God, not an avant-garde organ album. God, it's like someone doing their best to physically put pressure on my brain to implode it." And yeah, I'll admit, it's not the best album to put on after a long day of work, but I actually do quite enjoy Noise's Tenno quite a bit. And perhaps I'm just trying to challenge myself lately or listen to something new. Uh, but I think it's pretty neat how, even though every song's predominantly organ music, there's always something new added to each song, whether it be a trumpet or a guitar, drum. The delicate female vocals, mood changes from one track to the next, always, which is uh, pretty neat how they mix that up there. Um, and yeah, and I guess another awesome thing about this is that this album ends with a song that's quite reminiscent to a song you'd hear at an American baseball game. So it's a pretty badass way to exit an album. Yeah, I know this album may not have that much structure, or it may not make sense to a lot of people. And being in Japanese probably doesn't help people's trying to understand it. But you know, who said music needed structure, or had to make sense to be enjoyable? To me, Tenno's Noise is a very cool album that gets better with each listen, and I can guarantee you'll hear something new within it every time you put it on. So I like it. You know, put down in the comments what you think about Tenno's Noise. That's that's really all I have to say about the style of music that's on the album. For this second half of this music, second half of this video, I'd really actually like to talk about the history of Noises Tenno, because this album was actually made in 1980, um, only to be released in 1997. So there must be something about this album that made it come back, whether it's a proclaimed masterpiece or these people have become really big musicians. And obviously, I really didn't know anything when I went to my record store and bought it from the used section. I just thought it was something really unique, and I wanted to get into something different. Uh, so I brought it upstairs to purchase it, and the guy at the counter was like, "Cool album. Like, what, you actually know about this? What what's the story behind this album?" It's like, well, they're a husband and wife duo. Because they weren't husband and wife at the time, they might as well mention the two key players in this band. There's founding member Reiku Todo and Tori Toto. So over there, there's also a picture of Reiku on the back there. And he's like, yeah, they're part of this underground noise scene in Tokyo at the time. Out of the bands they're in the scene, they're probably the least noisiest. And nevertheless, he said that they can be pretty, or at least fairly well-known musicians who are quite a bit different than what they are on this album, at least. And I guess one thing to note about Noise is, I might have said it before, but you really can't find too much about the band on the internet. I don't even think they have a Wikipedia page. And if you try to look up information about the album, it's usually just where you can buy it. So yeah, Noise really didn't have too long of a career, it turns out. I think they just lasted from 1979 to 1981. They may have come out with other albums, but this one was their most predominant. At the time, Tori was part of anti-Japanese movement, kind of a movement that was kind of like down with the emperor. So he's writing some songs that weren't too fond of the emperor at the time. And, it's also should note that Tenno in Japanese means emperor, so it's kind of ironic that it's the title of this album. And Tori, today, he's kind of made like a total 180 on his life. He's now become a Jehovah's Witness and composes this fairly poppy, folky, also has some jazz elements, amateur band or orchestra, whatever you want to call it. And the orchestra is so much different than what Noise is. If you've ever seen the footage of Tori Kodo, I just saw a documentary of him a little while ago because I was planning to review this. I want to know a little background about the two members of this band. He's actually a really friendly guy in real life, someone you can really trust, and I think the music that he makes in his new band, I should probably say the name, it's called Maher Shala Hasbaz. I don't know, it's a Hebrew reference, I guess. But yeah, it's the great thing about the band is that it really emphasizes his friendly attitude and cheerfulness in life. He's a very accepting person. And one of the ways to get into his band is that you can just ask to be in it, since it's all made up of amateurs, and he just likes making friends, I guess. The band's fairly known around the world. I think they've played in experimental festivals, even though they're not too experimental. I guess the fact that all his players are amateur and his band is enough to make the band experimental. So I guess they're also on the record label K Records now. I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but that's kind of where Modest Mouse, Go Team, Built to Spill started out, and I think that's good fitting for his band. As far as Reiko, his wife, she also helps Tori with his band, writing songs, singing on some of the tracks, and she's also got a successful solo career going. I've only heard one of her songs, somewhat sounds like the Tennis Coats, but I can't say too much since I've just only heard one song. So I'll just leave it at that there. Also, one last thing I'd like to show you from this album is that it comes with this little piece of paper here that says Master Tape Technical Data. It's got a lot of stuff written in German, English, and Japanese on it. If anybody can translate this for me, please let me know. Quite interested in finding out. I probably didn't hold it up there long enough at all. I don't know. Bad lighting too. Just blame it on that. So that's Tenno's noise for you. Pretty cool stuff. Sayonara.